I'm sure what you just said now concerning the account opening with the central bank is, well, a new development, just breaking, and I'm hoping that, well, ASUU is unaware of this particular one. Have you communicated this particular opening of this account to the ASUU leadership?
Sulan, when you sit with the president of the country, and the president of the country tells you that we will open an account, and we will make this type of provision for that account. You know what exactly is expected. The president should now go to ASUU secretariat and start to tell them, come and see, I have opened the account. So what you have done. It is it is taking. What do you take authority for? It is taking that action has been taken, and it is your duty to verify before you make a proclamation that will alarm a country and its citizens. People must take their jobs with all responsibility and sense of decency.
Well, Dr. Okupe, you agree with me. They're doing this because of what has happened before. In Nigeria, some have come up to say promises are meant to be broken. So they wanted to find out if truly this will be kept. Now that this has been done, perhaps no one expects Mr. President to call them and show them. That is why he's got people like yourself and those in the Education Ministry as well as the NUC. Shouldn't they by now be speaking with ASUU so that they can know that this truly has been sorted out?
Now, what should a responsible organization that has the interest of the country at heart, that is not grandstanding and making people misunderstand what labor union is. In this day and age, militancy has no place. Look, people like Oshiomhole are very highly respected labor unionists. It is not their militancy; it is the robustness of their intellect and their power of thinking. People must go away from this. From this Aluta continua and no retreat, no surrender. You are coming to a negotiation. Your policy is that all or none. Nobody does that. Nobody does that, and it is not responsible. What is important is that we have had an agreement. A letter has been committed, and you are supposed to do your part. Now, if the government does not do their part, now the people will now see it. I've just told you the continuation of this strike is predicated on 4 points that have no value in sense or legitimacy. The truth of the matter is that as of today, there's no longer any legitimate reason for ASUU except for the purpose of subversion to continue 1 day longer with this strike. No, there's no longer a legitimate reason. They wanted 200 billion. They wanted an account to be open. It has been done.
May we get a question through to you now? I mean, you've listed the 4 conditions. You said you put it out there for Nigerians to be the judge, to decide. You've stated a stance of the federal government on these decisions of ASUU. Yesterday, we had we listened to the president of ASUU in his press conference saying that for them, these are just safeguards. They can be taken for granted, and they ought to be taken for granted. But given our history and where we're coming from, or where ASUU is coming from, they cannot be taken for granted. Usually in every agreement, we agree that there ought to be a non-victimization clause. If ASUU is asking for that one now as one of their conditions, how difficult can it be, especially since you've dismissed all 3 of them, apart from number 1, which you just said has been done, as non-issues?
It's gone. Well, I think I had you up to a point. Now, the non-victimization clause, the non-victimization is a superfluous demand. I've just told you that in all labor laws, internationally, nobody is those who have appended their signature to that, they know that nobody is expected to be victimized, as a result of having gone on strike. And Nigeria is a signatory to that. So, bringing this up as a condition precedent for calling off the strike is pretentious, it is insincere, and it's much of something else more than a labor issue.
A host of people will not be able to understand that because you have dismissed it as a non-issue. If it is a non-issue,
this is not a struggle between people. This is a struggle between an organization that has rules.
Subsequently, for this 4-month strike.
Can you come again?
I'm saying that if truly, I mean, you said the federal government is a signatory to international labor laws, but we all know that as part of agreements, as part of conditions for calling off strikes, it's usually part of an agreement. If truly this is a non-issue, as you have rightly said it is, why is it so difficult then to just sign and dismiss it as a non-issue, just where it belongs?
It is not difficult, don't get me wrong. It is not difficult. What we expected was ASUU having consulted finally after 3 weeks, all right, having consulted with his, with his chapters nationwide, and having come to a position, they should now meet up with, with government and say, look, even before a letter is written, in a place where we are actually all looking for solution. You come with your prepared position. Call the Minister of Education and Labour and say, well, thank you very much for the meetings we held. This letter was approved by our chapters, but they had certain gray areas. Now, this and this and this are the issues. Very easy. Now, we now bring in a memorandum of understanding and incorporate it, and then you meet again and you sign. But instead of finding solution, ASUU is more interested, you see, that in grandstanding, in confrontation, in showing strength and flexing muscle with the authority of the land. It doesn't make sense. We should, ASUU must understand its position in this society, and the leadership should not exaggerate their importance. It is, the lives and the well-being of the students is by far more important than any organization. And if people actually have any empathy at all, you'll be ready to forgo. Okay, now that ASUU is asking for all these issues, what about the students who have been out of work, out of university for 5 months? Who is going to compensate them? What will be done to assuage their sufferings or those of their parents? Negotiations are give and take. And it is obvious that ASUU is not dealing with cowboys. This government is not made up of cowboys. In all their struggles, have they actually ever been able to sit with any president? Obasanjo did not meet them. Yar'Adua did not meet them. This gentleman has met with you, has sat with you, and has had the patience to go through the whole gamut of your demand, after which you now come to an agreement. Now you now come and say there are other things that you must consider.
Okupe, just a moment, most of people will say that
and we have agreed
yes,
to 10.
they should be able to take most of these things for granted. I mean, it's not every day that the president of a country meets with unions. But at the end of the day, he is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that also includes ASUU as well. I do not know if you have seen the video of the supervisor minister of education. One would also say that the government also showed leadership with that statement. A host of people would have taken offense at how that particular statement was put out to even members of ASUU.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that statement. Absolutely nothing wrong. And I stand by that fact. If you have power to hire, you retain the power to fire within the law. Now, if government has done everything that is humanly and almost even inhumanly possible on an issue, should government now, go and prostrate at ASUU secretariat and say, please, kill us or go back to school? When governments all over the world are pushed to the wall, governments all over the world, in order to protect the citizens that they govern and the states for which they are sworn to defend, take drastic steps. Ronald Reagan in 1981 fired and sacked 1,435 air traffic controllers after a 2-day strike. That is the bastion of democracy. And even in Lagos here, in Nigeria here, in 1980, just a few months ago, the government of Lagos State, having become frustrated by the attitude of striking doctors, sacked 788 doctors. Governments all over the world do this when people become recalcitrant, when they become unreasonable, and they are unapproachable, and reason has fled. You know, what is government going to do? Government cannot fold its hand. It's not done. It cannot be done. And it's not a matter of pride. You know, ASUU should not take it personally. If I employ you and I ask you and you have certain demands and I meet with all of them and you still refuse to go to work, what am I supposed to do?
Well, anyway, I think, we still be looking at that particular document and hoping that Nasir Issa Fage comes to the studios, because we also spoke to him last night and even this morning. Well, he's said he's been held up somewhere in traffic because these allegations that they're also making against the federal government that of intimidation and trying to force them to return to classrooms against their will when all you've told us haven't been implemented is something that they also should tell the people what exactly is happening. And I really, as Mark rightly puts it, it shouldn't be any big deal, you know, for anyone to put pen to paper concerning those things, even though we know, well, they can just pass by.
Should I please, please, this allegation of intimidation and all this, and these are not issues at all. Let us separate the chaff from the real material. Forget about an allegation of intimidation. Who is the chairman and who is the president of ASUU that a whole president of the country will want to intimidate? By virtue of their nomenclatures, it is already intimidating. A president of the country and a president of a labor union. The issue, there's no intimidation matter here. What we all should be concerned with, including the media, is to appeal to the sense of reasoning of the leadership of ASUU, that government haven't met with virtually everything that they have desired and more than they desired. They should not, because of these points, victimization memorandum will be signed, definitely. Nobody is victimizing anybody for a fact. 2009 agreement will be incorporated in the memorandum of understanding, and the 200 billion that they are asking for is, and the account they want has already been opened in CBN. What remains? The only thing that remains now is for Nigerians, all people of good intention should plead with ASUU that in the interest of peace, good orderliness, comfort to Nigerian students, and to avoid undue desperation and punishment, unnecessary punishment, ASUU must now swallow its pride. It is nothing personal. I've seen the letter. The letter contains some insubordinating sentences saying that Nigerian. We are calling a whole federal minister and an action that taken by government as being thoughtless. The lecturers, and I went to university. Till tomorrow, I'm still talking to my children about my professors in school who are my role models. The way the president of ASUU conducts himself, there's no child that is from a good home that will see him as a role model. A man that embraces authority, that confronts authority.
Now, one of the reasons why ASUU embarked on this strike was the agreement of 2009. May I ask you, have you signed an agreement with anyone before and the person did not play out their own part effectively?
Everybody, personally, are you talking about me personally?
Yes, sir.
That has no relevance with this discussion, I'm sorry.
If you have signed an agreement with anybody before,
the way I conduct my personal business has nothing to do with government and government. There are statutes and there are laid down procedures for government.
Dr. Okupe, ASUU is taking their stance because they feel that the 2009 agreement was not followed through, it's not been reviewed, and even now that they are asking that another memorandum of understanding be signed by the Attorney General of the Federation, they believe that the federal government is delaying on that because they are not willing to play their part.
Look, are you talking fiction or are you talking reality? A meeting was held with the president, in fact, members of the NLC, TUC were observers at this meeting. And all these things you are mentioning here now were tabled. What do you think elderly men and responsible people will sit down for 13 hours to discuss? They're not sharing program notes. People sat down, laboriously went through demands, from 2009 to date, and they came to an agreement that has already subsumed every other thing, precedent. It has subsumed it completely. So going back to that doesn't make sense. what is on the table right now is what has been agreed at the presidential intervention. And this intervention and what the letters that were written were wholesomely acceptable by the leadership of ASUU at that meeting. And we have it on record in their own documents that when they went and presented it to their chapters accepted it also. So don't bring me back. The chapters accepted it, but they wanted a proviso of four items, which I have now enumerated before you. They wanted 200 billion to be an account to be opened, and they wanted 200 billion to be dispersed. That has been done. Well, anyway, they don't want victimization. That by law cannot be done. Nobody can victimize anybody by the International Labour Organization laws. They wanted the 2009 agreement to be incorporated in the MOU. That will be done.
Well, I'm afraid this is where we have to leave it. We'd like to thank you so very much for coming on Sunrise Daily. We'll hope to hear from ASUU so that we know where the problem lies. Now that you say an account has been opened and signatures put, we'd like to hear from ASUU and find out if truly this has been sorted out. Many thanks for joining us this morning. Sunrise Daily takes another break, and we will return. Stay with us.